Okay, with the Kinetico system, mostly they'll look a bit like this. You have the two resin bottles, and when it goes through its process, it will be using each bottle separately for flushing the resin through on the mechanism on the head, the main head of the unit. So what we need to do is we need to look at the pins that connect the two bottles together. So if you take a look at your softener now, you may have different size bottles than this, different amounts of resin in your bottles, as I say, and what you need to do is you need to locate the pins on the little connector here. So if you look underneath, you'll see some little pins with sometimes there's like a spring ball bearing underneath, so you need to just tap those up and take the little plates off. There's a plate at the bottom and there's a plate at the top. So the first thing to do is to tap those through, hold it securely, and just make sure the bottles don't fall over, and just do that. And then they might be a bit stiff if they've gone a bit rusty, but that's the way to do that one. Okay, so you've removed the pins and put those away safely. What you now need to do is to gently ease the two sections apart. What you'll find is some O-rings. There possibly will be some lubrication still on them, so they may be very easy to pull apart. But gently prise the two bottles apart. So holding it all securely, just pull one from the other and they should slide apart fairly easy if you've got a bit of luck on your side. So you can do that next. Now you have the bottles separated, you need to make sure that you're working on a soft surface. So if you can, work off a carpet. You need to get a cloth, and you need to get a very, very soft rubber mallet, and this is where you need to be very careful. So they're screwed in. The connections on the top of the second bottle are screwed in with a large thread, and it sits on a big O-ring. And the head of the water softener itself, the actual control head, that's also screwed into the top with a large O-ring, and they're not very tight, and the best way to get them undone is to very, very carefully tap the connections on the second bottle and the nut housing on the bottle with the control head on. So you can see here that I'm using, you make sure you take all the connections off of all the ones that are protruding, and make sure it's nice and safe. Wrap it in a blanket or towel if you can, and just gently tap. Don't overdo it, but you will if you gently tap, slightly increasing how much you tap the connection at the top. You'll find that they will come loose. Now we're going to remove the Kinetico control head, the actual part that does all the work. This is the most difficult one to remove, so we're going to remove this one rather than the easy one, because they're both exactly the same. So we'll do the difficult one, and then you can go to the second bottle, the added bottle, or bottle number 2. You could do that one much easier. So this one, I'm going to show you how to remove the control head from the bottle, and then we're going to take out the resin, and then I'm going to show you how to put the resin back and how much to put in there, so that it all works satisfactorily. So we'll proceed with that. Okay, there's a few ways of doing this one. You can actually try and hold the inlets or the outlets and try and undo it that way with something inside the apertures, but often you need to put too much force just to break the seal. So what we recommend is to try and tap the head around the top where the actual connection, the actual threads go through and hold the head on. This is very strong, and often when you tap this with a rubber mallet, it breaks the seal, and you can just, once you've broken the seal, you can just keep tapping round and it will then become, you know, loose by hand. You could almost then undo it by hand. So that's the next thing to do. When you've loosened the control head, you will find that it's actually coming away from the thread. You'll find that there's a tube that goes down into your resin bottle. So slide it off the tube, and this is what you will see. You will see a filter at the top of the control head. So pull this away and you will see that resin is accumulated around the filter head. So that's the next thing to do. Just take a look at it. Be careful with everything you do in slow motion. Don't force anything. Be very gentle and don't damage anything as you're doing it. Okay, so you remove the head, and you've seen where the resin is accumulated around the filter at the top of the control head. The diagram here, or the picture here, is looking back down into the resin bottle, and you can see the tube that protrudes upwards, and that's where the control head slides onto. So when you look at the end of the filter, there's a hole that piece slides onto. So it will be clearer a bit later on, but that's just a view of it so that you can see what's happening. Okay, next, stand the bottle in a large container, bucket, and you can grab hold of the tube that you see poking out at the top of the resin bottle, and you can gradually lift that up and catch all the resin in the container. So you take that out, and once you've taken that out, you then got the head, and then you have the pickup tube or the filter tube together. So that's the next step. So when you remove the tube, you tip the bottle upside down and empty the resin, all the rest of the resin, into a bucket, and keep, you know, it's going to be damp or wet, so give it a bit of a tap, you know, shake it, and you'll find that all the resin will come out. And at this point, once all the resin is out, you can then wash all the items. You can wash the tube, the head, the filter on the end of the tube. Wash it clean, and you can rinse the bottle out and wash it all perfectly clean. So get rid of all the old resin and wash it away. Get rid of it. Check to make sure that the filter is perfectly clean, and there's no resin around it, and just generally have a good inspection. Make sure there's no holes in the filter, the resin filter. There's some very fine slots in there which doesn't allow the resin to go through, so that all needs to be working properly. So just give it a good check and make sure that the resin can't go through the filters. Make sure the filter and the tube are completely clean. Wash it properly. Check the apertures in the filter. Check to make sure there's no damage on the aperture where it sits onto the head. So you know, you just need to check and make sure everything's correct and working properly. Now, for the purpose of this video, I know that the resin in this softener is absolutely perfect, so it's going to go back into the machine, into the bottle. But when you decide to do your softener, you're going to be looking around for resin. Now, most companies who sell resin in your area are likely to know all the differences between the different types of softeners. In my experience, all good quality resin will work in most softeners, but Kinetico will, if you ask them what type of resin that you need, they will specify a particular type. So rather than tell you what we do in this, in the UK, it's going to be best for you to actually do the research and find out what resin you need for your Kinetico in whatever country you're in. So, but I'm just going to show you how to put the resin in. It's going to be down to you to find the resin in your area. I can't ship resin to you because there's restrictions on some of the things that we can send. But basically, you're going to be installing dry resin, and obviously the amount to fill your bottle right up to the top. So I'm going to just put this resin back inside my bottle, and I'm just going to show you what level you need to go to. So you need to fill it back up to the top. So that's what we're going to do next. Once you've got the resin to the top of the bottle, you filled it up to the top, then you're going to need to now put the tube back into the bottle. Now, it's going to sound like it's going to be very difficult, but the nature of the resin, you can push items into the resin and it will move. Obviously, when you push something into the resin, it's going to spill out over the top, but that's okay. So if you get the tube, and you need to now line this up with the center of the bottle, because the tube, the filter on the end of the tube goes into the bottom of the bottle. So you now need to line it up, and you need to wiggle it around until you can push the tube right down into the bottom of the bottle. And what you'll find is once it starts going in, you'll only lose the amount of resin that the tube and the filter will is taking the space up. So basically you're going to lose some, it's going to spill over the top. So try and catch the resin in a container as you're doing it. It's easier to do dry than it is to do damp. I'm putting damp resin in, and you can still get it in there. So it just seems a bit fiddly, but persevere, and you'll be able to push the tube right into the bottom of the bottle. Once you've got the tube in as far as you can, then you can then get the control head, and you can push the tube into the filter, the other filter on that's attached to the control head, and you can then attempt to start screwing the very coarse thread back into the bottle. And what you'll find is, as you're screwing it in, you're going to find some resin bubbling out of the top. So what is a great idea, if you can do it, as you're screwing it in, if you can try and use an airline or a brush and try and brush it away, because you don't want any resin fouling the O-ring on the control head. And obviously, we've washed it all and cleaned it all. It's sometimes a good idea to put a little bit of silicone grease on the O-ring, the large O-ring, just underneath the head. You'll see where it seats down. It's on like on a flange, but make sure you don't have too much grease, and be careful that you don't trap resin on the seal. So give it a good clean as you go in, keep wiping it off, or keep using an airline to blow it away, and you'll find that once you've pinched up the O-ring, once it's gone in there, don't force anything, because it's all supposed to work. It's a touch and feel job. Make sure that that there's nothing sort of extra tight, but you'll find that you'll be able to then just pinch it up and give the head a little bit of a tap with a mallet, just to pinch it up, make sure it's fine. So that's the next thing. As you can see from this this photo, as you're screwing in the head, what I found was a good way of actually making sure the resin doesn't foul anything is to use an airline. So if you've got an airline, it's a good idea to, as you're threading it in every sort of quarter turn, is to blow the resin away that's oozed out. Make sure it's clean. Keep tightening it up, keep tapping it round, and keep blowing with an airline to make sure that it is not going to foul the O-ring, the large O-ring underneath the seat. So obviously keep going, keep blowing it with an airline, tightening it up, pinch it up, and then tap it around to give that extra little bit of a seal. But basically in reverse order of what we did when we took it apart. So that's the way to do that. So an airline is ideal. Okay, so now you've got it back together. You're going to need to run water through the appliance, and that will set the resin, and it will also flush out any particles of resin that you've managed to get inside the softener. So we're going to do that first. So you need to connect your water up, let it run, put some water through on the inlet. Just connect the water up and just let it run through the machine. Don't connect anything else up. Just wash it through. Just wash it through, and you don't need to connect anything else. Just wash it through the actual head of the control head of the Kinetico, and that will remove. And just keep running it. Check with water after you run it for a while and make sure there's no resin coming through into say a bucket. You run it into a bucket and make sure that the resin is staying inside the bottles. You don't want resin coming through the actual head itself. So that's the very next thing to do. And finally, if you've gone to all that trouble to do the resin in your softener, the best time to strip your head down, the actual control head, remove all the screws, remove the pull set, remove the actuators and all the bits and bobs, and fit a service kit. This is the time to do it. It's the best time to do it because you've got all the use, all the wear of the seals over many years, and if you haven't done it or it hasn't been serviced, then now's a good time to do it. So there's a view of a lot of the moving parts here in this picture, but there are a few essential seals that will make your softener work much better. So my recommendation is to change the seals. There's about 11 essential seals that need to be changed. These are moving parts, and these seals will make your system work much better. All the tolerances are tighter, and just generally will be more economical to run. And when you think that these engineers from Kinetico in the US now, when they come out, it's the bill that they give you at the end of the job, $600, $700, $800. I mean, they will often fit brand new parts, which is a good thing sometimes, to get it working properly. But is there really any need for some of the parts some of the time? I'm not saying all the time, I'm saying some of the time. So for the sake of $100 or so, you can fit the parts yourself. If you've gone to the trouble of doing all the work you've done so far, it's worth considering. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so just finally then, the best way to finish a job like this is to decide whether you want to go for a complete kit or a sort of a partial kit. I mean, the complete kit is quite expensive. It's $400. You're going to be looking at replacing all the level seals, which we have to get those from Kinetico, a source through Kinetico. Reluctantly, we managed to strike a deal with somebody that's going to supply us. They only normally supply their own engineers, and this is one of the problems with Kinetico. So I can get the seals, and they're going to be much cheaper than what you're going to get them to come and fit them for. So on eBay and from the website, the website's Kinetishop.com. You can buy all the bits there, or eBay. We have eBay listings, but the more expensive kit is the one with the level seals. The other kit is the one with the moving seals, and so it doesn't come with the level seals. But generally speaking, the cheaper kit will work and will solve a lot of problems. You know, the balance piston seal and the actuator seal at the top causes a lot of problems, and then you've got the small quad ring seals which are on the valves inside. They cause a lot of problems, and if they let by, the softener doesn't work properly. So they're not the easiest of appliances to repair, but we've sold hundreds and people have been delighted with the results. So those are all listed on eBay, you know, or you can get them from our website, which is www.kinetishop.com. So you can find it there, or if you search for Kinetico spares, you will find the shop there somewhere. But anyway, I hope the resin video is going to help you, and give you some idea. It's not that big a mystery, but sometimes it's nice to have someone just, you know, take something apart, show you how it's done, and put it back together. So anyway, I wish you good luck with whatever you decide to do.